Welcome back, Dinique's Diary fam. Welcome back. Okay, today I have a much anticipated review, really for my friend, but a review about the TV show Them. It is an anthology. I'm probably saying it wrong. Anthology, that's the right word. Anthology, yes, I am smart. Anthology series. So that means that this cast that's in this first season won't be in the second season. It's like American Horror Story, and every season it's a different cast, even though they do throw in some returning guests. I just noticed that when I was looking at American Horror Story clips on YouTube. I never watched that show because I'm not into horror, like I said before. But that's what Martin, who is the creator and writer of the TV show Them on Prime TV, he said it's going to be like American Horror Story. So it will be a complete different. Every season will be a different cast, a different crew, different theme. Like this theme, this series has the Emery family, and this takes place in the 1950s, and it's a husband and wife, and they have two daughters and a son. And I would get into all that, but he was saying next season will be a different decade and all this other stuff, so it won't be the same cast. And I was pretty bummed about that because I have really grown to love this cast and I love this whole family, and I was really rooting for them. So yes, so stay tuned. I'm going to do my review, my opinions, what I thought about it. And this show is very deep. This show is very deep. And it has so many themes and so many taglines, storylines, and I believe it was well written. The cinematography, the cast was excellent. Yes, brown sugar, dark chocolate, no colorism at all. Cast a real life family that you're like, yes, this is a real life family. Aesthetically pleasing, beautiful. Just I thought, it's so much controversy about this TV show, so we will get into it. So stay tuned. This is my Them review. Boop. Welcome back to Dinique's Diary fam. I'm here today to talk about the TV show Them. Okay, I have a notebook. My friend was like, you act like you writing a whole thesis. And I am, because this TV show was just a lot. I'm looking for my pen, but I'm gonna leave it alone. All right. It is so much controversy. So many people have so many things to say. So I just want to throw in what I got out of it, the themes, the theories, everything. I wasn't going to watch the show because of that it's a horror film, and like I said before, I don't do horror. I don't like horror. I don't like being scared. I don't like scary movies. That's just not my thing. But I feel like this year I have been stretching out because I love history. I love especially Black history. So it's shows I never thought I would watch, like Lovecraft Country, because of the sci-fi and sometimes the horror and the gore. I don't care for that, but it's a meaning behind it, and it's history and it's valuable lessons. Especially Jordan Peele, he used horror to get points across, to get themes across, and I think this is how Them is about. And a lot of people have been comparing them, like they compare them to Us, and I don't think, the only comparison is that this is a beautiful chocolate dark skinned family like in Us, and Shahadi, she's in the movie Us. But the only things I really get from Us and Them are, after a while you keep, treating marginalized groups such as Black people a certain way, they will fight back and attack. That's the only parallels I see from the movie Us, and I just saw this movie this year. Yes, I've been watching a lot of TV this year. Like before, I did not even turn my TV on during the week, but I have been watching more movies because of the climate, you know, being working, not working from home. We're gonna keep that quiet, but because I am home more, so that's that. I have been watching more television shows, and every time I do watch a movie, I'm like, I want to talk about it, I want to discuss about it, I want to hear a panel, and I'm like, hey, I could do it on YouTube, and my friends come on here and watch it, and we discuss it. I will discuss it with coworkers who watched it, so this is fun for me. And them is it's so much. I just really do want to talk about it and just to share my opinion about the show. It has been getting a lot of flack and backlash, and we will get into all that. Okay, so my theme, not my theme, my review of the TV show. Yes, I have notes and stuff. My friend was like, "Can you hurry up and do this? You doing a whole report." But I thought the show was great. It was great. It was also horrifying. It was very triggering. It was very traumatizing, especially episode 5. I was like, I will not watch that episode again, but I only watched the end of episode 5. I really sped past it again because I knew I was doing this review, so I want to go over some episodes again, and I just couldn't watch that again. But I just sped past it, really, because I was like, I will never watch it again, but I did speed past it today. But the themes of this TV show, and I got this from a lady. Well, she's not a lady. She's like a family friend. We used to go to the same church. She did her review on Facebook. Not a lot of people really talked about it on there. She didn't get a lot of likes or anything when it first came out, because yeah. Anyways, I stole this from her, so I have to give her credit. Yes, I probably share this with her. Themes in it were the Great Migration, red lighting, restrictive covenants, predatory lending, military service, military discrimination to Black servicemen. I added that. PTSD, microaggressions, healthcare disparities, disregard for mental health issues, colorism, homophobia, police corruption and aggression, uppity Negro accusations, angry Black woman accusations, victim blaming, white flight, workplace trauma, and the challenges of being the only and first, navigating the spectrum of being treated as invisible to being treated with venomous hatred, the misuse of religion to support and justify suppression and violence based on race, rape culture, self-hate. Yes, and I added self-hate, but that's along lines with colorism. But yes, this show had so much. When I say so much, like I have I wrote so many notes. Honestly, not to wait to the I know people would say wait to the end, but I think this show is a must-see. I think it's triggering to a lot of people, depending on what you're going through. I think right now, the reason it's receiving so much flack and so much backlash because of, we're going through a lot right now with just the recent trial with Derek Chauvin. Not his trial, the George Floyd. It's about George Floyd, not Derek. And I heard he's trying to have a mistrial. He's trying to have another trial because they're saying one of the jurors was at a protest and wore a Black Lives Matter shirt. Like, it doesn't matter. Don't waste our time. You killed him and it was on camera. That was excessive force. Like, no. You need to stay in jail. Go to jail. Anyways, not gonna get on my soapbox. Back to them. Yes. A beautiful African American is 4 in the family. It's Henry Emery, played by actor Ashley Thomas. Lucky, I cannot say her last name, so when I say it. um yeah, Lucky Emery, and her first name is Deborah. I can't say her last name, I don't want to butcher it. Ruby Shahadi and Gracie Melody Hurdy. Yes. They did amazing. I believe they need to get every award that they can receive because they killed it. I mean, I felt like I was them. Like, I felt every pain they felt. I felt every emotion, pain, heartbreak. Like, I felt like I was in the TV show with them and I was feeling everything. I was at work with Henry when he was having those microaggressions and just, dealing with his boss and his little slight comments and being ignored. I think everybody who go to work understand those microaggressions, and they do happen, and it's even hurtful when it is race. And I have so many friends and all that who've been through that. I've been through that, but mine's haven't really. I had some with some white people, but mainly I had it with other minorities, and that's for another day. But I've been there where, because our group is so hated by, not just white people, but other people know how we're treated and the stereotypes that we have. Other people would do those same things, even not just white people, but minorities too. They do it on the workforce. And I've experienced that. The microaggressions, I was like, ooh, it was triggering for me because I've been there. That's why I'm like, team entrepreneurship, like, because that stuff is silly. But we're gonna get into all that. But yes, it was so many things. It was just so much. So this beautiful family, they're from North Carolina, and tragedy struck, and Henry was offered this opportunity. He is a beautiful black man who is college educated, served in the military. He is an upstanding father, husband, loyal. Like, Lord bless me with the Henry. He was amazing, unconditionally loved his wife and daughters and son. He was just amazing. So yes, this show, like, this is our family. This is my family history. My family is from, this is going to be a long review. My family is from Nashville, Mississippi. Not Nashville, Natchez. Natchez, Mississippi. And like a lot of us black people that live in California, our families are from the South, and we migrated here. My family migrated here in the 60s. So, this is true. It was a great migration, and I'm born and raised in California, South Central. Yes, woo woo, East Side, historical South Central. So this is like my story. So I connect with this family. Like, this is what my family did in the 60s, although this family did it in the 50s. And this story, it says the story is of the Negro in America, and it's not a pretty story. Like, a lot of people are like, we're tired of these type of stories and blah blah blah, we're tired of seeing trauma on black bodies. But I'm like, where y'all, like, I just don't like this selective outrage. Like, this weekend I just saw several movies with the same narrative that I see all the time. Black men going to jail, black men in the hood, certain parts of California, getting shot, black bodies on the ground, getting shot in the head. I see it, clear as day. It's not hidden. I see black men doing drugs. Like, how we see this narrative all the time. Like, why y'all not screaming that we're tired of seeing? Me personally, I do have PTSD about men, especially black men in prison, because I have family members in prison. I've witnessed that. I've seen that throughout my life. I've seen how young men, black men in this system, being labeled from elementary to middle school as behavior issues and problems. They don't look about the sociology of the neighborhood, the economics, the family dynamics. Like, I've seen this where you just knew growing up, like, they're going to end up in juvenile hall, and then that's just like baby jail, and then they're going to potentially they're just there so they could go to the big jail, and that whole 3 strikes law. Like, I'm over it. I don't like. I can't watch anything about jail. Like, and I'm like, where's the outrage about that? Like, how many movies about jail do we have? Like, I wanted to watch a movie on Amazon Prime with Lakeith. He's a really great actor, but I saw that he was on his way to jail, and I was like, oh, cut off. Like, I can't. I can't. I have cousins, first cousins that's in jail, and it's just traumatizing for me. So I was like, why are we not outraged? Like, we know this story. This is part of our history. Where's the outrage? Like, I'm tired of seeing that. I'm tired of seeing, like they had Hope TV shows. My friends, Oz, the horrific gang rape. Like, we know that goes on in there or go on in there, and I don't want to see that. Like, where was the outrage? Even though Power was my show, I love me some Ghosts, but how many drug like Snowfall? What's the big show right now? Snowfall. And what is it about? It's about a drug dealer, in South Central. Like, we know these stories, so it's like, what is all this outrage? What is all this crying? Like, we're tired of these stories of black bodies. Like, we should say that about some of the same shows that we're praising. It's the same thing. And where's the outrage? This show is actually educating us about history, and these things are still happening now. And I will link all the stories that I research. Yes, I have been on my study. All the shows that, not shows, all the articles, videos, news clippings about black people who all over the world. Like, I found one all the way in the UK. Black families being harassed by neighbors and people in their neighborhood because because the simple fact that they're black. And it's still happening in 2021. So this show is valid, and it's showing you the horrors, and like, it just shows that we need to start reading more. We need to become aware of things that are happening. And I know Lena been getting the whole flack, like they was going in on her. And I did finally see Slim, and I thought it was a pretty good movie. Yes, I was heartbroken, but I'm like, yeah, if you kill a cop, like, and you're black, like, even if it was just justified, like in that case, you know, you're black in America, and you're just gonna be guilty. Like, nothing good is gonna come out of it. And it was pretty sad. I mean, they tried to turn into a Bonnie and Clyde, but we already knew, like, nothing good is gonna come out of that. Like, it's, yeah, so people are just mad at her, and I'm like, she's just an executive producer. She's not even the writer of the show. But all that hate is like, it's number one. I don't know what it is this week, but it's getting a lot of accolades, and sometimes hate, fuel things and get people's attention. And I understand it's very hard for us, but this is our history, and it just shows you that a lot of us need to read more and really learn our history, because we will be outraged. And I think we need to know our history so things won't keep repeating, but they still do. Like the young woman in New York in 2020, and this is in New York. Like, it's not the South, it's not Georgia, is not Louisiana. This was New York, where her neighbors were harassing her and wanted her to get out because she was black. And the community came together, and they had to have people watch her house. And I will link below how the cops finally charged these people, but they weren't doing anything because they were like, well, we can't catch them, they haven't done anything. Like, I gotta die before you guys do anything. But the community came out, and they was able to prove that the neighbor was harassing her. Like, this stuff is not new. It's still happening, even in Orange County. A black family, they were there, and they know how to, get you out of places they don't want you to be. And that's just not just white people. It's other minorities that do that too in certain communities. When they don't want you there, they're going to make your life a living hell until you leave. And this stuff is still happening. It's not to this extreme with the normal, like that's just extra, but the paranormal, um, that wasn't even scary to me. It was the humans that was more scary than the actually paranormal. So it's gonna be along my family how we had to come from Mississippi because my grandmother could have been hung because a white man in a grocery store, something small, he hit her with his basket or something like that, something, and she was like, excuse me, like during those times, even in the show, like they think black people are beneath them, they talk to you any kind of way. Like when Henry was on his kind of psychotic trip, went to his boss's home, and the man was like, boy, you know what you supposed to be doing over here, you know, that's how they used to talk to black people. And we were the court, we were supposed to abide by that, you know, so we wouldn't, because we would be punished, you know. Thank God I'm not in those days. Whew, thank God. A lot of us wouldn't make it, and my grandmother was feisty, so she was like, who you talking to, blah blah blah, like she got into it. So my great granddaddy was like, we gotta leave because Victoria, my daughter, she will get hung. So in the 60s, we came out to California from Mississippi. So we came to California because of that. All right, Deborah, she is the mom, wife, teacher. She's the glue. She holds it all together. And her character, she did an amazing job. I can't say these words, even though I'm not monetized yet, but the R word, she was assaulted on the show. I think YouTube will flag you. So she was assaulted. She didn't tell her husbands, and her daughter didn't know the trauma. But and then during those days, she didn't have therapy. Like now, black people, we're still trying to erase the stigma of therapy because black people still to this day do not want to go to therapy. Do not, they, like, your friends are not your therapists. They can't give you the tools that these people go to school. And yes, it takes a little while to find the one that you like, but it's just like with anything, even like dating, like you have to keep trying until you find the one that's for you. And that's what therapy is for, because I have found that it's really helpful. And I'm going myself, like I stated before, because my grandmother recently passed. So this is a new life change. So, and it's a blessing. Like I have my therapist is African American, like she's in my age group, and she gives me a lot of good coping skills. And I'm just thankful that I have that, because imagine, like, especially black women, we're just told to be strong, and I think we mess up ourselves, just like Lucky, all in our heads and not really getting help and not really coping and dealing with the well. You can really go mentally, you know, I don't want to say crazy, but not just in a good place, and not really be there to help your family and your kids. But her husband was so loyal and so devoted to her, which what I love about him. Like he was just like unconditionally loved her and was like, no, mama was there for me, because he had PTSD because he went to the military and came home, and she was there for him, because you'll see throughout the show he has PTSD. Sometimes he was in the military, and during the day with African Americans, they used to put them in, they did all types of experiments. We all know about the Tuskegee experiment. That's why a lot of us are like, we don't know about this vaccine, because we know the things the government have done to African Americans. The Tuskegee experiment, the syphilis, and even with black women taking our uteruses, which they're still doing. Like our wombs are really under fire, and that's a big passion of mine, to heal our wounds. And that's why, like, I'm on this personal journey to heal my womb, because I do have fibroids, and they're just taking our wounds, and we just have so much. So I'm just into the healing of black women and our health. So because of the health disparities, like even in the show, she went to the mental hospital. They weren't really helping him. They were giving him lymphotomies, and that's not going to help. It just take the memory of what they did. Like these women were, number one, had the racial stuff going on outside the home and in home, dealing with demons because that land was possessed in episode 9. We'll get to that. We already said he's a HBCU grad. He's a former military. He served in the war. I think it was World War II. He's an engineer. He's a provider, protector, all these things. He's an amazing dad, amazing husband, and would do anything for his family, which the Black family, we need those men. All the Henrys need to stand up. Let's get it together. But he has PTSD, and the microaggressions at work really triggers him. Like his boss is a real jerk. And it's funny, I saw another review. Somebody was just like, this boss, like he always plays a jerk. And I'm like, it's true, every role he plays, but just the undertone, the things he was saying to him, like the words, then they know it. Like I had a memory, he was one of my faves. And Deborah, like I said, she's the wife, she holds it down. Ruby Lee is their 14-year-old daughter. She's the oldest daughter of the crew. She has a lot of different issues because she's a preteen starting high school, and they move to California while she's 14, and she has to deal with the death of her little brother. She has a little sister, and she sees her mother kind of like tripping out, and she doesn't understand because Lucky doesn't let her family know what happened to her what happened to her son. I'm not trying to give it away, and I don't want to say certain words on YouTube, but the death of her son, so they don't know what happened. And in the show, she's like, you're too young and you don't need to know, but I didn't hurt your brother. But even the husband didn't know. I was wondering why, because when I was watching episode 5 at the end, when it gets to the funeral part, I was wondering why he wasn't like, my people are from the South, and I know Black men in the South, like, they have guns. I don't even know if I was to say that on YouTube, but they have protection. And that's just because they're on the country, because they live in the middle of nowhere. And especially the Emery family on this TV show, they lived in North Carolina, and they lived in the middle of nowhere. So I was like, and you was in the military? Like, you didn't have no protection? Because of what happened to her when they went to go to the movie. She was alone by herself, and they seemed like they were like some weird, mentally not right white people who came to our house. It was 3 men and a lady. Like, when I say, like, I hated that lady, I hate that lady. Like, and I know she's just an actress, but it was several people in the show that I'm like, I really have hatred for, and I have to remember, like, they're just actresses, they're doing their job. But yeah, so the 14-year-old, she already has like issues, because before they moved to California, just even in the car in the first episode when they were moving, she had a magazine of Doris Day. And Doris Day was, I guess, the big person during that time in the 50s. And just like, that's why I believe in having affirming magazines. I love today that we're very conscious on having dolls, Black dolls, and I'm thankful for Jet magazine and other ebony magazines, because Essence, Oprah, we need to see ourselves. And that's because she already had self-hate issues and insecurity. Just looking at the article, like I watched some of the episodes over just to get a whole download of what's going on. And from the first episode, it just showed her that she was admiring Doris Day, and as a Black girl, she's like, I don't look nothing like her, but this is what society says is the standard of beauty. And for a lot of Black women, it's like, it's European standards. We're not European, we're African. So you're trying to say we're not beautiful, and you'll see. And her story was heartbreaking because we still deal with that to this day. And I'll get into that a little later. But I'm in a book group and we're talking about the bluest eye, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Gracie is the baby girl. I believe she's around 6 or 5. Still in kindergarten, but she's a little firecracker. I love Gracie. She doesn't care. She tells you what's on her mind. She got a little face. Like, she defended her brother when the cops came. She was like, that's my brother, put him down. Like, she do not care. I love one reviewer was like, that's my little maniac. Like, she do not care. She is about that life in real life. And even when her mama burned her, she was like, my mama burned. Like, she was giving her mama the evil eye. Like, girl, Gracie is hilarious. She is fearless, because some of her scenes, that's why I didn't want to watch the show, because I was really like happy. I was like, when I saw the billboards, I'm like, yes, a dark-skinned chocolate family. Like, we need to see all colors of Black people. We're a rainbow of colors, the beautiful shades from the lightest to the darkest, and you don't always see it in Hollywood. So I was like, yes, people are, thank you. We tired of this colorist, because growing up, I don't know, I'm going to side note. Growing up, like, I seen the shade on Fresh Prince. Like, we had dark-skinned Vivian. All of a sudden, they replaced her with light-skinned Vivian. And you be like, I remember, what's that show with the Wayans? They had the daughter, and then one day, Claire came down. My wife and kids. Claire came down. She was light-skinned, and all of a sudden, all the boys wanted her. Like, you just, like, it's just thrown in your face, and you see it. Like, really? Like, this is what we're doing. We still have so much, like, we have the Black community, we have a lot of work to do. But when I saw the trailer and I saw little Gracie get swept up in that closet, I was like, oh, no, I can't do it. But, yes, that's little Gracie. What did I get from it? What I got from it, so basically it's just a family. They moved to California, Compton. The place is, because this could be a long review. The land they moved on is haunted. In episode 9, it has the whole backstory of the land. So Compton is actually haunted. You have this evil man, Epps, the man in the black hat, who goes around terrorizing Black families that move into this neighborhood. And these Black families already have hatred because it's the 50s and they're moving into a white neighborhood. So their neighbors are already evil and trying to get them out. And then they have these supernatural evils after them. So it's like they can't win. It's just really sad. I think that's why a lot of people are mad. Like, can we win, bro? Like, can we have a happy ending? Like, it's such a beautiful family. Like, they're good people. They're good families. Like, a lot of them, the Black men, it was another family. You know, even if they weren't good people, still, like, I don't know. But anyways, my rant. These families moved there, you know, just trying to seek out a better life. We're Americans too. Sometimes I have to remember, like, yeah, we are Americans. Like, I have conversations with friends all the time. Like, we should be afforded these same opportunities, and it should be no discrimination based on our race. So we should be able to live where we want to live, go to school where we want to go to school, because we're American too. We're born here. Basically, I'm African American. We built this. This is ours. And yeah, we should be able to live and have the rights like everybody. But, you know, the society we live in, we have people who think they're the only ones that should be afforded rights and everybody else is underneath them. And no, that's not the case. That's not it. So, yeah, so they moved to this new town, Compton, whoop, and I'm from, you know, LA myself, so it's funny. And growing up, I used to always hear these stories how Compton was so white, and I didn't know it was so racist. But I know Kevin Costner grew up there. Then I heard Bush, and you're like, now, because we know Compton as just Black, you know, thanks to Straight Outta Compton and all that stuff. Like, But I remember hearing stories how white, even where we used to live on the east side, they said Armenians used to live over there. And as soon as, black people come, they be like, uh-oh, there goes the neighborhood. So white people was like, we gone. And that's what happened. But it's just interesting to see how, like, people love to blame racism and the things that happen bad in the South, but they don't talk about the North and the West. Like, it's still, we can't escape. Like, no matter where you go, you cannot escape racism and evil people, evil white people. Like, and I will list in the show how they did the redlining in places, how they didn't want blacks to go, so they had these little claws. It was crazy. Like, they really had meetings to keep us out, and predatory lending, which still happen to this day. I feel like we might have another housing crash because that stuff still goes on. And redlining, and I will show clips on all that. It talks about a lot and things we need to know. So this family moved there, and in less than 10 days, all hell, like, that demon, that devil, like, he came and he was wrecking his family. Like, they had no peace. It was like day one. Like, me personally, after my dog died, the way Precious dog died, and his head was twisted, I would have left that same night. Like, Deuce is some evil here. Like, nah. And, I know it's TV entertainment. I would have never went in that basement, number one. Number two, like, and it shows you, like, the women, God give us discernment. And it shows how he go after women. Like, the Bible describes women as the weaker vessel, like how Satan go after Eve, and how the devil, the man with he's the devil, Epps, he went after the women. Because, the Bible says the women are the weaker vessel and all this other stuff. Like, Eve really cursed us. Like, no, we're strong. So women, like, lucky, that's why she was the glue. Like, when she was away in that mental hospital, like, the family was falling apart. But as soon as she escaped, that's my favorite scene. As soon as she escaped, like, she got the family together, That just shows you, like, this show, it was telling us, like, black family, it's imperative that we stay together, we stay united. We had to defeat our own demons and then defeat these demons together, defeat these white devils. We must stay unified. That's what I got of it. Like, the mother is the glue, and that's why he was going after the mothers, He was commanding them, and episode 9 was crazy. Like, I tried to watch it, but I couldn't really watch it again, because that was episode 5 and 9 are the most triggering for me. Yes, those are the most triggering efforts. He basically go after the women first. And he commands them to take control, to kill their families, all this other stuff. And, in the show, it shows the other families, the women that Lucky knew something wasn't right. So she was looking for other black families to talk to the women. And she was finding all types of stuff out. That's when I was like, girl, you gotta go. But her husband was just like, he was just, I won't say prideful, but he was just like, no, this is my house. I worked hard for it. We deserve it. They've been through so much, losing their son and all these things. And he was like, no, like, we're not running. And it's true. Like, even though I was like, I would have been bounced. Like, I would have been in Watts with my peoples. Like, we going to live in that apartment and we'll go buy a house somewhere else. But they didn't know all that crazy stuff, Before, and that's why before you move, like, you should do research, because to make sure what land you on, like, because stuff have, spirits and stuff, and you gotta have somebody come with some power and pray over your house, because that stuff is real. That stuff is real. When you feel vibes, like Lucky, she felt it immediately. Even her daughters was like, I don't like this house. That's when I'll be like, I don't care what you say, hear me. Like, I know you're the head, you're the man, but trust me. But he couldn't really trust her because she was going through all these mental, like, he was just like, he didn't know what was going on with his wife till later on, episode 10. 10, he finds out what happened to her with the baby, like the real story about what happened to the baby and what happened to her. She was ganged. I don't want to say the whole word, and that was very traumatic. So he didn't know because he started screaming. I was wondering, like, at the funeral, I'm like, why y'all just sitting there just chilling? Like, my family would have been like, we gonna find them. You know, it's during those days, like, black men, they took their justice. They only had to self justice. But my family would have been like, oh no, we about to get these people who did this to you, you know? And people were so outraged, but I'm like, this happens. Like, we know this happens. This happens more often do we think. And especially black women, like, sexual assault and the R word, like, it happens a lot. But because black women are in this society, you know, that's why we have these. I love this whole movement, protect black women, because it's true. We have not had our voices heard. We are like triple minorities. We're black, we're women, black women. Double minorities. We're black and we're women. So, yeah. Yeah. So it's like we're a double marginalized group. It was something else. It was like triple. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about it and I'll add it. We're like triple minorities. I heard that somewhere. But you know, we get discriminated a lot, you know, in this society. That's why Malcolm X was like, black women, like, we're the most disrespected group. And it's true. Like, yes, I know black men, you know, go through a lot, but women, like, because they just see, you know, women don't have a whole lot of rights. Like, now we're starting to get a whole lot of rights, but yeah, we're like double marginalized. So yes, so I just think a lot of women don't get help. They don't call the police. They don't think nobody will believe them or care. I know personal stories of things that happen with family, and the police never probably even heard of these stories, don't even know what happened. And it just stays, some women don't ever tell. When I was a social worker, I talked to so many women who were like, we never told anybody this story. We never told. And they're holding that in. And I'm just like, what is that doing to you? Like, that's so much trauma that you're passing on. That's why not to get all holistic, but I do believe that's why we have the highest numbers of fibroids and all this womb trauma, because we have all these generational things passing through our ancestry that we don't know. Like, I was listening to a study, and the lady was saying to get trauma, it takes like 17 generations. I'm like, what generation are we? Like, it's been over 400 years of this genocide. So I'm like, this healing starts with me. I take this very seriously. The healing starts with me. Breaking these generational curses, like, no. For my family and future family, I want us to do better and get out of these. You know, black people, we do have PTSD. I believe in us getting therapy. We've been through a lot, and I think this show triggers a lot of that. And I'm like, if you need to go seek, this is May Mental Health Month, go see therapy. Go seek it. If when you find the right person, and I will link different links below about therapists you could go to who are African Americans, for my African Americans. Places you could go for inexpensive, and I will leave links and resources because our community needs it. I just saw a movie on Netflix, All Day, All Night, and he was just saying, like, we just learned through slavery how to survive, not to live, but just survive. And I do, even though I feel like it was a typical like hood movie, like, it still was pretty deep because it gave you an insight. Like, a lot of people, especially if you're not from the hood or if you, a lot of people even from the hood are judgmental, like, well, you have a choice, like you didn't have to join that gang. But some people, they really don't, like, depending on your fam, especially if it's your family, like if it's a family thing, you know how much peer pressure that is to go against everybody in your household. And in certain circumstances, like, it's not so easy to just be the opposite. Like, it takes a lot to be a unicorn. That's how I always felt like I was. Like, I was on purpose. Like, I'm not gonna be the statistic that everybody think I am. And you get ostracized. People talk about you. They do, like, and it's just like, okay, keep talking. They gonna keep talking till you die or they die. Like, keep talking. I'm still gonna be great. You know, like, so people gonna always talk about you, talk negative, whatever. Like, that's just life, and let them talk, and you keep doing you and be great. So people that do all that talking about other people, like, they ain't got nothing to do because they not great. They need to get something to do and be great. But anyways, yes, I just talked about the trauma in Black families, intergenerational, how you will never be good enough for white people. The perfect family, you could be the perfect family, but they couldn't be great because of the evil deities and the supernatural and the not even non-supernatural, just their neighbors just being evil. And it was led by the character Becky, haha, Betty, not Beyonce, Betty. It wasn't Becky, it was actually their neighbor Betty, who, she was super evil. Like, get some business, have some kids, and she couldn't. Like, you know, her husband, he was trying to live his alternative lifestyle. Like, he didn't really want to be with her. Like, she had so many issues. And they had one scene where she went to her father's house and they, like, implied, you know, sexual assault. And some other reviewer was like, we don't want to feel sorry for her. Like, it still don't, just because that happened to her. You know, her daddy was very wealthy. She was trying to get money because she wanted to move. And her evil self, that's all she could have done. She could have been focusing trying to move than trying to cause trauma to this beautiful Black family. You know, putting little, you know, mammy dolls around her house and putting the N-word on their yard. Like, she was so obsessed with them, peeking out her window. I mean, I be nosy too if I hear something, but like, she was just obsessed with this family, like, just abnormally, like, obsessive. Like, even her friend was like, you know, even the neighbors wasn't even caring. They wasn't happy about seeing them move into the neighborhood, but they was not obsessed. Like, she was on some, she was just an evil person. Like, even her best friend, she was mad because her and her husband, they got a new car and it was moving. She put sugar in it. Like, she was just not a happy person, miserable, and took it out on everybody. Like, she tried to be this perfect person. I think that has to do with her trauma. But it was funny. We was like, we don't care about her trauma. We are not trying to sympathize with this evil person, because she the one who brought the evil to this family, who was minding their business, trying to be great. Like, they had enough demons after them. They didn't need the human ones, which were more scarier than the supernatural ones, honestly, in my opinion. And it just shows you just how the levels of human, like, and people really do this. It's so many baddies that's in real life. Like, this lady played this role. Like, she, and sometimes when they be playing these roles, you be like, are you really like this in real life? Like, are you really hateful and evil? You know, that's because just like in episode 9, like, that was a demon. Like, all this racism stuff, like, I believe, you know, I don't know, but very, very evil to hate somebody because of the color of the skin. And I believe that probably really happened. But what else? It's so much. It's so much. And this show, like, it was funny reading the reviews before it premiered, but just like in the movie, when I saw the trailer of Judas and the Black Messiah, excellent movie, go check it out. I did a review on that. It was funny seeing the white people reaction, like, in the comments, this is race baiting, and they didn't even, didn't even watch the show yet. But I could see how that could be very triggering for them, because y'all did a lot of evil stuff and you still want to deny. And I haven't bought the book yet, but I'm going to read it. But I love it. it's the white fragility. It's a book out, and it just shows you how like white people get triggered because they can barely handle a challenge, and any challenge to their position, their comfort, or their entitlement, like they get so upset. And I think shows like this does that because it makes them like, I need to look in the mirror and see if that's me. Like, nobody's saying apologize for your parents, but you could correct the wrongs with yourself and then teaching your children, because hate is taught. When you're a kid, you don't even see color. You don't even know you're a color until somebody tells you. And sometimes it's negative, you know? Like, my mom says we were at the mall, and my god sister, this white girl, was like, can't she just rub it off? You know, she thought she was paint. And like my mom best friend, she real pro-black, so she went off on her mama probably. Or I just know she told her something like, excuse me. But you teach your kids to hate. It's not, you're not born to hate. It's very much so taught. And it's funny, white racial bullying, it's, they make it, they don't want you to talk about it, so they try to make it difficult to talk about it. They will do whatever, like, I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but because I want to talk about that, how some white people do now, like my experience with a white group where they didn't really want me to talk about these issues, so I'll get back to that. But it's funny, and I'll describe what white fragility is. White fragility is not weakness per se. It is a powerful means of everyday white racial control, as it leverages historical and institutional power to maintain our positions. And yes, so it's not weakness, but it's just all about power and control. Like, when you hear these patriots, the way they talk is about maintaining their position. They want to keep, you know, who, I would love to keep the benefits. And it's like, I understand, because you, like, I want to keep my privilege, but not at the expense of others. Like, it's enough for everybody. So you hear it, like the hatred, and they think like, this is my right. Like, it's our right too. We're born Americans. Like, anybody, especially born on this soil, like, we deserve the pursuit of liberty, not just you. But it's really twisted. But in episode 9, the covenant, that is, and the whole show was the covenant this season. Next season it will be another one. So this episode was traumatizing too, like I said before. And in this episode, it's about the man with the top hand. We finally get his origin story, who he is. His name is Epps, and he was a pastor. And it was like a white man in the 1800s. He lost his family and wife, his family, which is his wife and child. He was praying, like, it was minutes, like 3 minutes of him praying to God. And he was doubting his faith, and he was praying to God. And then he was walking, he heard a boy crying. And he you know, I think they referenced that like a ram in a bush, like found this ram in a bush. We say that a lot in church. Like, you know, we pray for something and we be like, oh God, da da da, and he gave me a ram in the bush. Read that if church folks know what I'm talking about. But it was a little boy. He was dirty or sick or whatever, and it was Satan. It was the devil. That's why you gotta pray. Like, ooh, that's why I said Epps. Like, that's why Jesus says, my sheep know my voice. Because he was like, oh, this is God. He started praising God. And I'm like, you know, I can't even be mad, because I've done that too, where I was like, oh, this is God. This is God. And I'm like, now, like, nope, I'm waiting to hear his voice. Like, especially different situations that's going on now. I'm like, nope, we will not jump to conclusion, because I need to fine tune, because like he said, his sheep know my voice and they will not follow another. So especially during this time, like, I feel like this has been a big wake up call to the church to really listen. And it's a lot of Epps We about to break it down now. It's a lot of F's that I'm like, no, you're not. Y'all gonna get, some people gonna get mad at me, but oh well, it's the truth. 2020 have really opened eyes for a lot of people. A lot of people have been exposed. Some of these churches need to stay closed because they are not men of God, or they need to go and sit down and really hear from the Lord. But let's go. But number 9, it was very traumatizing because, especially growing, I see how African Americans, I have friends who are like, we would not be involved in Christianity because of people like Epps who misuse religion to support and justify suppression and violence based on race. Black people. They use scriptures out of context. How many people do that? And that is not... The Bible says, do not add or take away from the word. And he takes that very seriously. And he didn't know the voice of God. In the episode 9, like, that's a triggering one for me, especially because I know how Christianity for white people have used it to keep black people oppressed. And that's why some black people are like, we don't even want to deal with it. They don't. And I'm just like, no, like, my thing is like, no, really get to know God for yourself. Read the Bible for yourself. Ask for understanding and just wait. Don't try to interpret nothing yourself. Like, really pray for for revelation, and so he could tell you what to say. He will let you know. So many people just call themselves, and that's really scary because you have people that do things that are not right, and that causes people to lead astray, especially with the racism. And in the organization that I was in, like, I grew up hearing about it, but my experience, like, I know people that left, and I'm like, that blood is on your hands, because you cannot treat people bad and think like, oh, I'm good with God. Like, no, like, if you say you're a Christian, you need to be a Christian. You should be for all people, and not just, get on a pulpit and say, well, that's just the way it is. Like, that's what somebody said. And yes, they edited out the video, but he said it, and it was just like, people are hurting. You don't have that many there anyways. And especially, like, if you have somebody has high self-esteem and speaks up for themselves, like me, and know my history, know who I am, yeah, you don't say that when people are hurting. People wrote certain things on Facebook. I had to delete them, and it was just like, that's not what you do when your brother and sister are hurting. You don't say things like, oh, well, the only reason it's getting attention because it went viral, and I'm like, no, we have so many, like, that is not it. When you're, the Bible says you mourn with those who are mourning, and God didn't hang around perfect people. He went to the people that society cast as, outcasts. And right now, that's Black people and other minorities. And it was just interesting to hear other minorities like, bro, you're really whitewashed. Like, bro, you're not white. Wake up. But, yeah. But it was just like, I expected, more. And I had some crazy conversations. And it's just like, that whole white fragility. Like, I posted something like, your silence is compliance, but other people will post crazy things. Like, somebody posted about Ahmaud Arbery, like, this, it was fishy because, and then they use other, like, conservatives who was saying, like, why would he go jogging, Ahmaud Arbery? Why would he jog with cargo pants? So what? Like, if he wanted to have, whatever, anything on, like, if he wants to wear a sweatsuit, a jogging suit, whatever, like, whatever, they didn't have the right to chase him and shoot him. They're not cops. You call the cops if you think something is wrong, and I'm like, I deleted a lot of people because it was just sickening. And I'm like, you call yourselves, like, I saw some crazy stuff. It was very white supremacist. Some stuff I'm like, I could have screenshotted which some stuff I do have, but God was like, stop being petty, Donique. But I'm like, I could send that to your job and you could get fired. Like, your livelihood will be. But God, it's been like a year now because I was mad. Like, what? And I think this is that white fragility, and it's entitlement. I would do what I need to do to make you stop. So be silent. So many Black people were silent during that time in this organization and other whatever organizations, like in church. And they were hurting. They were just like, where is the church? I'm like, this is the time you step up. Like, it was one pastor who was saying back in the 60s, like, it should have been us leading the march with Martin Luther King. I'm like, okay, this is your time now. And it's still crickets, And then, yeah, it was just the denial. It was just acting oblivious, like nothing is happening. Very defensive. And then because I don't hold quiet, like, this is my life. Like, that could be me just sitting in my home, like the young lady in Louisiana, educated, went to Xavier. She was with her nephew and a neighbor thought somebody was breaking in and she was killed. They were just playing, I think, video games. Jefferson, something, like, we're just targeted because they're scared of our race. Like, if you're scary to be a cop, like, you don't need to be a cop if you're scary. If you're so scared of Black people, like, that's why. And I know this because of I am in social services, and I know that I know where I live, they have racial bias trainings, but it's not enough. Clearly, it's not. And I understand, like, all of them are not bad, but I love how somebody said the good ones need to speak out against the bad ones, but they have that brotherhood. They have this brotherhood that's like, we do not bail out on each other. It's very toxic. And I get you should have brotherhood, but not for the bad things. Like, I think it just finished the show 7 seconds. And that really described, like, how they think and how the lengths they would do to get away with stuff. That show was crazy. I finally finished it. But I saw it years ago, but that was 2017, and that's still valid for 2021. Like, and I know because I work with amazing cops. I know they're doing, when I was working in Watts, like, they're doing an amazing job. Like, the kids, it was really changing the narrative, because growing up, I grew up in the 90s. So that's when we had, like, the Ice Cubes. Y'all know those songs. I can't say them. But it was really, like, the Black community was not happy. Like, I remember the Rodney King. I was in elementary. I didn't go to school for a week. My mom didn't go to work. Like, I remember the chaos in my community. And I seen my family lost businesses. My auntie's shop was burned down. So it's funny. I saw, Facebook, white people was like, they're burning down businesses. And it's like, no, it's not right, because we're burning down communities. Don't do that. People work hard. But like Martin Luther King said, the riot, people riot and burn things down because they're, the cries of the unheard, is they're angry. So that's what they do, And you always have ignorance and knuckleheads to take advantage of the situation. Like, I remember people going to steal and get, try to get things out of it. And the cops was watching them because later on they start rounding them people up. So stupid. But you have people that take advantage. But it's people that are like, we're tired, we're sick, we lost loved ones. Like, we are American citizens, we're humans, and we should be treated as such and treated fairly. I know life is not fair, but it's just like, I would never understand racism. I know it's economical, and all this other stuff, but it's pretty demonic and evil. It's not of God. But I remember it was a quote by Langston Hughes, like, you can't appeal to the morality. Like, if you can't appeal to the moral, like, it's really no cause. I think I'm saying the quote wrong, and it's in my phone, and I record with my phone. But it's just like getting back to the church, like these white churches, they call themselves diverse. I love what they said about claiming the diversity cover. The diversity cover is like you could be in my orbit, diversity cover, but once you challenge me, like I'm gonna get rid of you. And that's what I did. I challenged them. I mean, I left. They didn't really get rid of me. But as long as you can keep me comfortable, you know, then you know you can stay around. But once like me, I'm not gonna keep you comfortable because I'm gonna keep talking about it because that's my people. And like if you don't know, like, and I came to people and was like, I know this is about your organization. I'm not like Meghan Markle. Like I didn't go in there blindside. Like I'm not stupid, but I really thought you was really trying to do, you know, God. Like I love in the beginning of the episode 9 was talking about unity. And I thought you was trying to do this unity thing, not have a diversity, so you could look and say, we're diverse, we're diverse. And it's like you really don't believe it. But when I don't make you comfortable, then you know, it's a personal problem. And it's like you could be on the committee, or you could be in a community as long as you don't, as long as you do what you're supposed to do, which is just be there but be quiet, you know, like that. I'm gonna buy this book. But she was breaking it down, she was making other people uncomfortable, but it was like, for change to be effective, we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror. Like, stop trying to cover with this diversity and then get the few black people that you have there to be your like prop. I made another black person mad when I was like, they need to stop using my people as props. They was hot. But I don't care. But we know, we're not stupid. We know when people are using people just to look the diversity. They do that at work. Like my coworker, he was the only black male in his unit. And when all this stuff was happening, like a lot of companies are like, we're going to hire black people. You should have been doing this a long time. Of course, people who have the credentials and do qualify, because there are a lot of us that do have the credentials and are qualified and can do the job. But they just picked somebody random, like, and now it's like he's just gonna be the face for a little while till when this stuff they think blows over, then they'll just demote him or fire him. You know, last hired, first fired, you know, and they've been doing this for years. So a lot of companies are being called out on this. I feel like I'm all over the place, guys. I hope you're understanding. But yes, this show brings up so much, but especially my experience in the all white space. And during that time, I was very, you know, it was very troubling during that time. But like, because, you know, I do want to please God, I have to continue to work, be nice, because these people are supposed to be my brothers and sisters in Christ. But it's just like, you don't see, I can't open my eye. If I can't appeal to your moral side, then you're a lost cause if you don't get it. And it's funny because, like, how long do we have to educate? Like, that's not my job to educate you. The black people, it is not our job to educate you. It is not, like, I didn't mind if you supposed to be my friend, then I will talk to you. And it was people that were really trying to learn, but then you could tell somebody got to them and was like, leave it alone. And I'm just like, no, like, what if this was the shoe was on the other foot? You will want me to help you. You know, this is not right. The atrocities, like the Bible says, you know, we're supposed to be there for the widows and the ones who are oppressed and for justice. Like, that's in the Bible. I believe this is a must see. I think for some people this would be very triggering. Some people can't get past certain episodes, but I believe just the whole, this show is needed to start a discussion, especially with Ruby, the older daughter, whole discussion about self love, and we need that today, especially with our Black daughters in a world today that values beauty more than anything. And all that is fleeting and is vain, especially our Black girls that don't, especially our darker skinned Black girls. And yes, lighter skinned girls go through trauma too and issues too, but I don't believe as much as dark skinned girls. Like, we have people today, certain rappers and artists, and they totally diss us. Even certain R&B artists that, I loved, was into, but I'm like, I can't really rock with you no more because you're a colorist, I can't rock with you no more. So, because you're self-hatred. I have people in my own family, like I heard comments, all that stuff. But I'm in a book group and we're reading this book, The Bluest Eye by the late great Toni Morrison, and Ruby episode 7 and 8 deals with that whole book. Just self-love, and her not wanting to be like them. She don't want to be Black anymore. She thought it was ugly, and I believe we still need to talk about that because we still have people who think it's ugly, and some people think, well, I'm fair skinned, that makes it a little better. And it's just really sad. Like, in order for us, like, this show is like, in order for us to be successful, like, we need to be our own personal demons, and then we could defeat these other demons. The ending I don't like, because I don't know like what happens to this family. I'm rooting for them. I hope they make it. I hope they make it, but this is the 1950s and we sneeze wrong, we're accused. So, daddy, he slips up because he has like the devil on his shoulder, and he did slip up with that cop, even though we thought he was an ally. He wasn't. But it ends, we don't know what happened to this family. We just see that they standing strong. They all defeated their demons. They all came together. And a lot of people, I think that's what I got out of it. Stay strong, Black families. Stay together. Get mental help. In those days, they didn't have those services. They just had a friend to talk to or a family friend. Stay together. Get help. Go to therapy. And work our issues out. That's the only way we could defeat this evil devil of racism. So that's what I got out of it. I know this was a TV show, it was entertainment, but there was real life scenarios. All right, y'all, I need to end this. I could keep talking about this show, but it's a must see. You need to watch. I'm gonna leave all the stories below about how this is still happening. I don't understand the outrage. Y'all need to become writers. Y'all need to become writers, storytellers, and start pitching your ideas to studios so we could tell the stories. But this is our story. This is our history. Read, learn your history. This was real life. This is a part of our story. I don't understand the outrage. Yes, I would love to see this family do like a happy movie after this. I would love to see this same family, do something else happy, even a sitcom, but not horror or scary. But the actors were amazing. The music, the cinematography, job well done. I enjoyed it. I will watch it again. It was so many lessons, so many things that I took from my personal life, how I could be empathetic and helpful to people and my people of color, got an accent, Black people. It's an important story. Life is not always a fairy tale, but if we could have thugs and drug dealers and those same narratives, people going to jail and stuff happening in jail, we could have stories like this, that this is our story too. And we need to get upset. We need to get upset in order, to start writing our stories too. If you want to see other stories, we need to get upset to start fighting these oppressive systems, overturning these laws. Like, let's use this energy attacking Lena when she's trying to tell our stories in her way. Like, she's from Chicago, she's telling, wherever you from. I'm from LA, I could talk about, wherever. It's enough room for everybody, for we could all tell our stories. I was hearing that people's getting mad at Issa Rae. This is her story from her point of view. I'm from LA, that's her story is my story. So, but we all from different places. So let's all become writers. All become storytellers. We could do it. We could be our own Issa Rae. If you guys don't like these stories, we do have other movies. We have my coworker. We have other stories of non-Black trauma. Yes, I would like to see more stories of non-Black trauma, honestly. I would love to see this Black family, like, again, in a sitcom or something else. They're a beautiful, loving family. I would love to see that. This is very triggering for me, but this is our story. We have Sylvia's Love. I enjoyed that film. It was all about love. It could be any color. And I understand the outrage, but let's be more outraged that we keep getting shows about drug dealers, crack, like, we know this. That's why. But I'm gonna watch Snowfall because everybody's saying it's good. But I'm like, I seen it. I lived it. I'm from South Central. I've seen it, lived it, could tell you stories. I ain't really live it, but I seen it. Like, I know it. I'm not into that. But anyway.